Welcome to Brettcast Movie and TV Talk, Transformers Talk, and Comic Book Talk, I guess. I guess that works, since we will be talking about movies, including Transformers, some other titles, and comic books as well. So, a while ago, Hasbro had this idea that they want to take their comic book universe and put it on the big screen. Besides Transformers, that has 5, soon to be 6 movies, Hasbro is going ahead with a new G.I. Joe film that is going to be a reboot for the series and a standalone film from the previous two. They are also going ahead with a movie based on the Micronauts. That big thing is that the people over at Paramount said that they are certain that ROM and M.A.S.K movies are never going to happen unless Hasbro is going to go to a different film studio to do it. I really don't think that's a terrible thing. See, ROM, while being a decent character in the current comic, wouldn't work out in a film. I don't think that putting a ROM story in modern day Earth would be very interesting at all. For the time when the first ROM comics came out, it worked in that setting, but doing an updated setting would be a bad idea. I don't think that ROM would be a good character for a film on its own. I think that ROM is a character you put in another film as a secondary character. I mean, maybe ROM has enough of a backstory to comprise of an entire film on his own, but I don't think it would work out really well. Also, who knows if these dire wraiths would make a compelling enough enemy to keep audience invested in the film. Now, the problem with the M.A.S.K film is that it wouldn't really be anything new that we're seeing on screen. Given that there are 5, soon to be 6, Transformers movies, seeing more transforming vehicles on screen wouldn't be a good idea and wouldn't be that much of a wow factor to people watching. I know there was a 2016 run of M.A.S.K comic published by IDW that ended at issue 10 because M.A.S.K on its own was not nearly as popular as Transformers, G.I. Joe, Micronauts, and ROM. Basically, the M.A.S.K series got cancelled, which really did surprise me, though I didn't read that series. They had even less of the M.A.S.K crew in the first strike event. Even if they wanted to do a film, I think it would be hard without putting them in the same continuity as the Transformers films. Then they could use the way they got their transforming vehicles using Cybertronian technology, just like they showed in, I think it was Revolution. But like I already said, I don't see M.A.S.K being able to hold that wow factor with all the Transformers movies we already have. Maybe if they had done a M.A.S.K movie earlier in the Transformers movies, then it wouldn't have been so bad. On top of all that, it just seems that Paramount cares more about continuing the Transformers movie over all other properties that Hasbro has access to, and that's not exactly a good thing. I think that they are starting a trend by putting out all these Transformers movies in the space of 1 year. I know that The Last Knight didn't do so well and didn't make the money they thought it would. Perhaps they are putting all their chips on the Bumblebee movie being the best Transformers movie since Dark of the Moon, which is not a smart idea for them to do. I think that a lot of people will pass on the Bumblebee movie just merely given that The Last Knight was terrible and they have lost faith in this franchise to produce quality movies. Yeah, you have the fact that Bay is less involved, but most people will not care about that. Plus, it's coming out at the end of December and on the same day as the Aquaman movie, so that's a direct competition right there. Even though DC movies have about as good as a track record as the Transformers movies do, I feel that more people will opt to see Aquaman over the Bumblebee movie. Now, I don't know how they're going to pull off a Micronauts movie. I have limited knowledge of the Micronauts, given that I had not even heard of them until Revolution. But from what I do know about them, I don't see this making a really good movie. How are you going to get the idea of microspace across without the Micronaut interacting with beings who are much larger than they are, like a normal human, and expect the believability factor to be there? Sure, the concept may seem interesting on paper, but I don't see this panning out well enough for an entire movie. Then I really don't see why we need to completely reboot the G.I. Joe movies unless they're going to set it up for a crossover event that, for all we know, may never happen as much as people hope. Now, I am not one of those people. I don't understand why a G.I. Joe Transformers movie is something that people want that badly. I know they have a long comic book history, but most of those involve G.I. Joe fighting the Transformers, so unless you took from like the Dreamwave Transformers / G.I. Joe comic and have the good Joes and the Autobots fighting against Cobra and the Decepticons, then that would be fine and may actually make for an interesting movie. Otherwise, I say leave Transformers and G.I. Joe separate so they can't screw up the Transformers movie more than they already have. Not sure the best words to close out here, but that's all I have to say, so if you want to add to the conversation, leave a comment below. As always, thanks for listening, and goodbye.